Good morning. From now, let's get into the subject. Our subject is Indian economy, and let's try to understand what exactly is this. In the earlier class, I told you one point. Let me repeat that point once again so that we will have a clarity. There is a difference between economy and economics. Economy is always related to the practical happenings, and economics is the theoretical subject. Economics is theory and economy is practicality. With this understanding, let's go ahead and we are discussing about Indian economy that is related to our IAS 2021 batch. And as far as GS part is concerned, we are going to deal with the Indian economy only, not Indian economics. Am I clear? Economics is a part of optional subject, nothing to do with us with our the practical purposes here. So that is the reason why this topic has been named as Indian economy. Now let's try to understand, what do you mean by economy. Economy is nothing but a place. Economy is nothing but a place where the goods that are produced are exchanged. Goods that are produced are exchanged for money. That is called economy. So whenever I say economy, what are the various concepts that are coming into the picture? We are mentioning about the goods that are produced, goods that are exchanged with money. All the three are coming into picture. Goods are produced, goods are exchanged, money, all the three are coming into the picture, and all the three put together is called economy. But where are you producing, where are you exchanging, and where are you giving this money? Whatever may be the place where the goods are exchanged, that place is called a market. Meaning, in a very simple format, market means it's a place where you have both buyers and sellers. Please remember very clearly, you go to vegetable market, you go to this fish market, you go to gold market, you go to share market. Wherever you go, you will have both buyers and sellers. Whenever you have both buyers and sellers, that place is called market. Kindly remember, if you have only buyers, that is not market. If you have only sellers, that is not market. That is the reason why whenever I say market, this is the combination of both. Sellers are selling and buyers are buying. The moment you take some goods, the moment you take some services, that will be exchanged with money. Meaning, money has value only whenever there is an exchange. Clear? Very important. I told you already, you have to listen to each and every sentence very clearly and carefully. Whenever I say exchange, you are taking the goods and you are paying the money. Money will have a value only when you are taking it. Clear? Similarly, you are getting some services, maybe telecommunication services, internet services you are getting. The moment you are getting the service, you are paying some money, meaning some exchange is happening. Money will have value only when there is a transaction. Only when there is a transaction, then only the money will have a value. Otherwise, money has no value. Otherwise, money has no value, and money is just like a currency paper. It is just like a paper. This is not a currency at all. But if you look at our currency, our RBI, the Apex Bank of India, that is printing the currency. And this currency is sent into the market. So whenever we work, whenever we earn money, that currency will come to us. And with that currency, I can purchase something from the market. Meaning, I am getting apples, I am getting vegetables, I am getting something else, groceries. And in return, I am paying money. If I don't pay money, I don't get the groceries. If I don't pay the money, I don't get the fruits and vegetables. Clear? That is the reason why money is considered to be the medium of exchange. It will have a value only when there is an exchange. Clear? For example, here I may have lots of money with me, but if I go to a market, Nobody is there in the market. So there are no sellers, no buyers, then it's not a market. If I have lots of money also, what is the value of that money? That is the reason why money gains value only when there is a transaction. Clear? Now, so now you have come across with the production, exchange, money and market. Kindly remember, at various places during our discussion, you will come across with the words, like, consumption, distribution, money, and the markets. So many concepts will be coming up, and every concept will be discussed in a very, very detailed manner. Now, this is one thing. Second thing is that whenever I say economy, it is not always only the goods. Goods are produced, right? It is not just goods, but the concept of services will also come into picture. Goods are tangible, services are intangible. I can see the goods. If I want to purchase a laptop, I'll go to the market and I can see the laptop, then I can purchase it. I can get it by exchanging with the money. But when it comes to the services, I can just enjoy the services. I can feel the services. Today I am enjoying internet. Today I am enjoying the so-called, this various social media. All this is happening because of the internet. And this internet service providers, they are providing service, right? So I can't see them, but still I am getting the service. They are called intangible. And how come I am getting the services? Even the services are exchanged with the money. Am I clear? That is the reason why in a market there is a concept of exchange, and the exchange will happen with the so-called, this money. Today I have something called currency. But in the earlier days, there was a system called barter system. Barter means exchange goods with goods. That is called barter. What is the meaning of this? Say, for example, you belong to one area where you are producing, these are tomatoes. I belong to some other area and I can produce only bendis. So on a market day, we'll come to the market, we'll meet each other. Since you have no currency to purchase my products and I have no currency to purchase your products, then what can be done? I'll take tomatoes from you. In exchange, I'll give you the bendis. That is called barter system. Of course, today this barter system is almost extinct. It is no more available, but we hear that these are still available in the remotest areas. But today we are living in a modern age. In the modern age, you have a system called currency, and that currency will be used as the exchange. Am I clear? So now you know about the goods, now you know about the services, and all these we can get only by exchanging with the money. Money has a value only when there is a transaction. Clear? Now, second important point is that every time we hear that as far as economy is concerned, America is the strongest economy in the world. America is the largest economy in the world. China is the second largest economy in the world. Earlier, Japan was the second largest, but that has been taken over by China now. But what do you mean by this, first of all? What do you mean by the largest economy, second largest economy, right? And India has to strengthen itself as far as economy is concerned. How do you measure an economy? How do you know that America's economy is the strongest and followed by China? Earlier it was Japan. How come China replaced Japan with its its rank by scaling to second position? So how do you measure, first of all? Please remember, very, very, very important point. Whenever you measure economy, you always use the concept of GDP, gross domestic product. Am I clear? So economy is measured by GDP. Of course, now some new concepts have come into the picture. Let's try to understand all these things later. But please remember, tomorrow if there is a question, a country's economy is measured by Answer is gross domestic product. But what do you mean by this gross domestic product? Let's try to understand in detail in the first class itself, so that many times in future you will come across with a this acronym, that is GDP, which stands for gross domestic product. Now, if you look at a country, say for example our country, India, you know the shape of India, you know the map of India. India has got its own boundaries, nice boundaries, clear? And within India, within its boundaries, in India, within its boundaries, we are all living. We are all living and we are all the citizens of India. Follow me carefully, my dear friends. We are all living within the boundaries of India and we are all Indians. We are all the citizens of the nation. Can I also say, apart from the citizens in this country, non-citizens are also living? Yes or no? Simple concept. Yes, non-citizens are also living. And within the boundaries of this country, I am working something, meaning I am giving some strength to the economy and I am becoming the part of development economy. That is the reason why I am producing something, I am exchanging something, right? I can handle the money, I can handle the market. So this is what is happening. So can you also tell me, apart from the citizens of India, non-citizens who are living in the country are also contributing with respect to strengthening India's economy? Answer is yes. Because they are also taking part in the production, they are also permitted to invest money here, and they are also permitted to run the business. All this is happening through FDI. Clear? Though the foreigners are present here, but they are producing something on the soil of the nation, on the soil of India. Whether we are the citizens of India or non-citizens of India, all the people who are living within the boundaries of the country and producing some goods and services. And whenever we are producing goods and services, that will have a money value. Every good has money value, every service has money value. Hopefully you are enjoying internet. Is it free for you? You are paying for it. Hope you are enjoying mobile services. Is it free for you? No, you are paying for this. Similarly, you will go to a market, you will purchase a mobile phone. Is it free? It's a good? No, you have to pay for it. Purchase laptop, you have to pay for it. Purchase rice, purchase dal, purchase anything, you have to pay for it. Am I clear? So meaning the concept of exchange is coming and the concept of money is also coming into the picture. Clear? Now, whenever I say GDP, gross domestic product, the total value of all the goods and services that are produced within a country in a particular period of time, generally that is 1 year, that is called GDP. I repeat, gross domestic product means the total money value of goods and services produced within a country in a particular period. Am I clear? But who is producing here? Did I say only citizens of India? No. But what is that I am very clear is that whatever you are producing within the boundaries, only that I am calculating. What do you mean by this? Say for example, some Indians have their factories or establishments in some other countries. They are producing something, they are also providing some services. But I am not taking those into consideration because that is out of my boundaries, out of my borders. That is the reason why you have to be very clear whenever I say GDP, GDP is nothing but within the boundaries. The total money value of goods and services produced within a country in 1 year, that is GDP for me. Am I clear? Whether that is being produced by citizens like me or they are being produced by some non-citizens, I am not bothered. I am bothered only whether it is happening within our boundaries or not. whether it is happening on the floor of on the soil of India or not. That's it. That is important for me. That is the GDP. That's it. Very, 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 very simple concept, but a very powerful concept because a country's economy is measured through GDP. Hope I am clear now. Now you know what are the goods, what are the services, what is the consumption, right? So what is selling, what is market, what is money, everything now you are very, very clear, including the concept of GDP. Please remember, if you add anything that is produced outside the country into our economy, that is not GDP. That is not GDP. Whenever you write about GDP, you have to be there within the boundaries of the nation. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. Now I'll open the document. Kindly see here. When I say GDP, we explain now. We also have the concept of nominal GDP, real GDP. All these things we'll be understanding in today's class only. Let's go in a very systematic manner. Let me open the document for you now. Look at this. Okay. So now let's get into details of this. Whenever I say economy, production and consumption of goods, production and consumption of goods and services, and the supply of money. Please be very careful. Whenever I use the word economy, let's not just think only superficially. Since you are all writing IAS examination, that is civil services examination, you have to be very thorough with each and every concept. So economy in the sense the production and consumption of goods and services and the supply of money. Economy is a system where goods are produced. Goods that are produced are exchanged. Please look at the bracket. You are exchanging the goods, that's okay. But here, what is the role that is played by money? Do you have any value for the money? That is important, right? As I told you, my dear friends, very important one. Money has a value only when there is a transaction. If there is no transaction, there is no value for the money. I gave you the example also. If I have lots of money with me, still if I am unable to purchase anything with that, right, that is not, that doesn't have any money value for it. That is just like a paper. Today we are calling it as a currency, but that is just like a paper. It's of no use. That's the reason why in economy, money should flow. Very, 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 very important. Whenever I say economy, a good economy is an economy that money has to flow in the market. That is the reason why sometimes what will happen, there will be so many sellers and so many buyers in the market. So many sellers are there, buyers are there because the transactions are happening. Transactions are happening because the people have the money, and more money that flows into the market, that will lead to strengthening our economy. How? Because you have money, you are going to the market. Because the products are there, you are purchasing. So transaction is happening, you are getting the product and money is going to that side. Then what will happen? That money will be invested further for producing more goods, for producing more services. Right? So obviously what will happen? So since there is an dynamism in the economy, so the money will flow. Kindly remember, economy has to be very, very, very dynamic. Now what is happening throughout the world? Entire world is facing the situation of pandemic. Right now there is a slump in the economy. There is a recession in the economy. Alright? So there is a great slash in the economy. Right? That is the reason why all the countries in the world, including India, we are trying to again open up our economy, and we have started our businesses now. Clear? Because of this coronavirus, what's happening? People are just sitting at their residences because that was the need of the hour. But now the number of cases are increasing, but the government has opened the economy and government permitted people to go out, because how long the corona will continue, we don't know. That is the reason why we need to learn to live with corona. Where is it? How is it going to affect the people? We don't know. Right? We will understand only when a person becomes sick, which is really very, very, very sad thing. And with this fear, if you sit at home permanently, then what about the economy? People lose jobs. If the people are not going, there is no production, there are no services. If the production is not there, services are not there, no exchange will take place, no transaction will take place, and money will not move from one place to the other place. Plus, if the people are losing the jobs, they don't have the money. If people are losing jobs, they don't have money, and if they don't have money, they can't purchase the goods and services. Am I clear? That is the reason why in a healthy economy, listen to me, in a healthy economy, there should always be a demand. Demand will be there only when the people will have money. Am I clear? That is the reason why even during the lockdown period, in order to keep our economy alive, various governments at the state level, they have provided monetary help to the people who are suffering. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. That's the reason why to keep your economy going, you have to place money in the hands of the poorest of the poor people. Then only the economy will survive. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. That is the reason why, in order to keep the economy strong, RBI will come out with the monetary policy. Government will come out with the concept of fiscal policy. So various policies will come into the picture. Let's understand all these one after the other. So now you know what is market, what is GDP, what is production, what is exchange, what is the money. Am I clear? So now let's go ahead. Look at this. An economy is a system of organizations and institutions that help facilitate are involved in production and distribution of the resources among the members of the society. Please look at this concept very clearly. Whenever we say economy is a system, it is a system of organizations and institutions. These are involved in the production and distribution of the resources. Imagine a situation where you have coal industry, steel industry. Imagine these two are not present. Then what will happen? Coal will not be available, steel will not be available, and all the industries that are dependent on these two will not be functioning. That is the reason why you need to have the institutions. We have Coal India Limited. We have, this SAIL, Steel Authority of India Limited. So like this, various institutions are present, and each institution is functioning to its capacity to keep economy afloat, supported by government on the name of fiscal policy, RBI through the monetary policy. That is the reason why economy is not just a free economy where anybody can do anything just like that. No, economy has to be organized. Economy has to be organized. That is the reason why people look towards RBI during the times of the crisis. People look towards the government during the time of the crisis. Right? Just imagine one example. During our pandemic time in India, or any country in the world, who took care of the people? Is it not the government? Is it not the RBI that came forward and said so many things with respect to monetary policy? Yes or no? That is the reason why in economy you have, economy is a system where you have the organizations, institutions, established institutions to give certain directions to the economy. Am I clear? And every country has it. But the only difference is that how exactly your system is functioning, that makes all the difference. Look at this. The size of the economy is measured by GDP. Very, very, very important. Size of the economy is measured by GDP. Next point, if you can look very closely, there are two major economic systems in the world. One is capitalism, second one is socialism. But most countries use some combination of the two known as mixed economy. You might have heard many times what is Indian economy is called. Indian economy is a mixed economy because it is the combination of both public sector and private sector. And here we are using the words socialism and capitalism. What do you mean by this? Whenever I say capitalism, it is always dominated by the private industries. Private industries, since they have lots of money, they will invest the money according to their choice where government is not interfering. That is the so-called capitalism. More you invest, more you can make. That is the basic idea. Government will maintain a distance. But, right, for example, if you look at, all the Western countries earlier, so these were all called capitalistic countries because they are dependent on the capital. But when it comes to socialism, right example we can see on the name in the form of China, in the form of Russia. What do you mean by socialism? When I say socialism, the complete control of the economy of that country lies in the hands of the government. If everything is controlled by the government with respect to economy, that is called socialism. Am I clear? And we call India a socialist country. But we call Indian economy as a mixed economy. Because here you have the presence of both public sector and private sector. Meaning the concept of socialism and capitalism are integrated here. That is the reason why, so we are called a mixed economy. Am I clear? And whatever the socialism that is present in India, that socialism is called democratic socialism. Neither we are completely capitalist, nor we are completely socialist. And we have adopted a midway. Mid path has been adopted by India. Clear? Very, very, very important points. Kindly remember all the points. The more the fundamentals are clearer to you, the better you understand the subject in future. So hope you got it. So capitalistic countries are those countries where private investments are very high and government will not interfere in any manner. But whereas in socialism, everything is controlled by the government itself. Example China, example Russia. And we India, we call ourselves as a socialistic nation. But in India, we have the combination of both. That's the reason why our economy, our country is called democratic. We are enjoying democratic socialism. Meaning at the same time, we are giving encouragement to the private sector, capitalism. We are also giving encouragement to the government. That is nothing but socialism. For example, if you look at China, China came into existence and it has a history of many centuries. But after it got independence, China decided to be very strict socialist country. Whenever I say a country is a socialist country, the government will enjoy the powers of the resources and distribution. All resources are in the hands of the government. All distribution is in the hands of the government. That is called socialism. China is a perfect example of socialistic nation. China is the perfect example, I repeat. But what happened over a period of time? China also realized that if you continue with the serious concept of socialism, the development will not happen. If everything is mooted and controlled only by the government, development will be delayed. That is the reason why China in the year 1979 opened up its economy. The concept of liberalization has been introduced in China in the year 1979, and we, India, introduced this concept in 1991. China is our neighbor, the country with the largest population in the world. We are the second largest populated country in the world. They opened their economy in 1979 and we opened our economy in 1991. There is a gap. Some critics will criticize India why India did not open its economy early. It is not that easy. There are so many problems, so many intricacies will be there. And what are all those intricacies? Let's try to understand over a period of time. But ultimately, in the year 1991, we opened our economy. Please remember, the year 1991 is very important with respect to economic reforms, and 1991 is considered to be an year of great economic divide. I repeat, 1991 is considered to be an year of great economic divide. Meaning, if you want to know about India's economy, we can divide that into two parts. Pre 1991, post 1991. Meaning, before 1991, what is the condition of India with respect to economy? After 1991, how the Indian economy has changed, grown, strengthened, elaborated. That we can know only by reading the economic reforms. That's a separate class and we'll have a detailed discussion on that. Am I clear? And during that particular time, and India opened its economy, economic liberalization, privatization and globalization have been introduced. That is called LPG. L stands for liberalization, P for privatization, G for globalization. So this is called LPG. Please remember this. It was introduced in the year 1991. Am I clear? This is the point number one. Next, when it comes to India, when did we become mixed economy? Important. When did we become mixed economy? India is a mixed economy since beginning. Since beginning means we got independence in 1947. We commenced our constitution in the year 1950. And since that time, India is a mixed economy. Though our constitution is saying that we are a socialistic nation, India provided for the participation of the private sector in its economy since beginning. That's the reason why we are mixed economy since beginning. That is the reason why we are called democratic socialist nation. Am I clear? We are neither completely capitalist nor completely, this is socialist. But in the beginning, larger amount of our economy was controlled by the government. That is the reason why socialistic ideology was more. But later what happened? Government has started giving lots of relaxations. What are all the sectors that are reserved for the government have been opened for the private participation. Clear? So this is what happened during the, this 1991. And I would like to tell you one more thing. You must be, following this earlier. But as far as our classes are concerned, you have to follow this. Say for example, now we are dealing with Indian economy. We deal with current affairs in some other class. We deal with disaster management environment in other class. We deal with polity in some other class. I want all of you to please maintain a separate notebook. Please maintain a separate notebook for each subject. And whenever we are discussing something, you please write down the notes. So here we are not going to dictate anything, but you have to maintain running notes. During our childhood also, so we used to write these running notes. Running notes is not a detailed and elaborate notes, but as the teacher is speaking, you should be able to write something. And those points are very important for the examination point of view. And if you revise those points, your 95% of the preparation is done. So you have to utilize this opportunity. So when I am speaking, please put a notebook there, take a pen, and whatever I am saying, you try to write it down. Because the lecture is a bit faster when compared to your writing, you will not be in a position to write everything on the notebook. But you please make it abbreviations. Whenever I say Indian economy, you just say IE. In the beginning, one time you can say Indian economy, but there you can say IE. Clear? If I say liberalization, privatization, and globalization, don't write all the three words there. You just write LPG. That's it. So in future, wherever you come across with the words LPG, so these liberalization, privatization, globalization must come to your brain cells. Am I clear? Very, 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 very important. And this notes is going to help you a lot, my dear friends. Tomorrow you read any material, tomorrow you read hundreds of books. I am not bothered. If you have time, you can read, but what I insist is that our class is important and the notes that you are writing here, that is important. It's not so easy, but still you need to practice, because IAS is not easy, remember. IAS is never, never, never it is easy. But with a systematic approach, if you are going ahead, we can make it. That is what the difference between the people who are successful and the people who are failures. Got it? Right? So now once again I am opening the document. Kindly have a look at this, and I want you to read all the points once. All the points, please. Starting from point number 1, that is what is economy. Please read very slowly. Another important thing, whenever you read something, you have to read with understanding. Don't just read like that. Right? Shall we go ahead? Initially we are going very slowly, only to make you to understand every concept. The moment we go ahead, we are moving ahead, the things will become much easier for you. Clear? And that is the place where you start understanding economy when you are reading the newspaper. I am very sure you must be able to understand maybe political topics, historical topics, geography topics, environmental topics from newspaper very easily. But for many, it becomes very difficult to understand economy topics from the newspaper. It is all because of the lack of in-depth study. That is the reason why allow me to take enough time. Let's get into the depth of the subject. Right? So once you start understanding these concepts, then reading any magazine, any standard book, any newspaper, right, and are listening to the conversation of economy, that will make it very easy for you. Got it? So that is my intention. Clear? That's the reason why, and whatever you are learning economy, that economy should be useful to you forever. It is not just to crack IAS, because you will be dealing with the various aspects in the society tomorrow, and that is the reason why, so economy is a part of that. So you should be very clear and thorough with the concepts. Clear? Now once again I am opening the document. Is it clear? Now we'll go ahead. Look at this one small question, very small question for you. Which of the following countries is the largest economy in the world? What is the answer? USA. Just now I have discussed with you. United States of America is the largest economy in the world. Clear? How do you measure economy? Economy is measured by GDP. What is GDP? Gross domestic product. Clear? What is GDP? Gross domestic product. What is the definition of that? We have understood just now. Am I clear? So now let's go ahead. Look at this. So what is the answer? Option D is the answer. Very small question, but very important question. Now, which of the following countries is the largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity? What is PPP? I'll tell you after some time. But let's understand answer for this question. Which of the following countries is the largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity? Option C is the answer, that is China. Please remember this. This is China. Okay. Let me explain you what is the meaning of PPP, that is purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity is nothing but the capacity of a person, the capacity of an individual to purchase something. But how do you compare this purchasing power? First of all, I live in India, somebody lives in United States of America, and we want to buy a shirt. Same shirt, same design, same model, everything is same. But is the cost of shirt in India is the same with the cost of the shirt that is sold in United States of America? No. Number one, their currency is different and my currency is different. They speak in terms of dollars and I speak in terms of rupees. But still I want to compare this. Say for example, in United States of America, they must be selling a shirt for $20. For $20. And the same shirt is available in India, say for example 3,000 rupees. For example 3,000 rupees. But if I really convert that $20 into Indian currency, how much I am getting? First of all, why should I convert? I should convert currency into the same value only to compare, because I cannot compare dollar with rupee. theirs is dollars and mine is rupees. I cannot compare dollars into rupees. Either you convert rupee into dollars or dollars into rupees, then compare, then you will get the purchasing power parity. Am I clear? So then you will get the difference of purchasing power parity in United States of America and in India. Am I clear? So what should be done? First of all, say for example, that's $20 you convert into Indian currency. Example, imagine $1 is equal to 70 rupees. $1 is equal to 70 rupees and 70 into 20, 1400 rupees. So if I purchase a shirt in America, that is costing 1400 rupees, and if I purchase the same shirt in India, that is costing 3000 rupees. Clear why this is 3000 rupees here? Here, whatever is being sold, that is being sold at a higher prices, because the transportation, various taxes that will come into picture, and the rate will be higher. In America, some American purchasing a shirt at the rate of 1400 rupees, same shirt I am purchasing at the rate of 3000 rupees. And whose purchasing power parity is more? My purchasing power parity is more. Is that okay? Because whatever the other person has spending, I am spending more than that. My purchasing capacity is more. And if you take that PPP into consideration, China is the largest economy in the world. Am I clear? First, let's understand. I cannot compare two different currencies. That is the reason why a currency has to be converted to some other currency. Just now I gave you the example. Am I clear? So this is one principle in economy that you need to understand. Okay? Now, once again I am opening the document. Kindly have a look at this. Look at this. So what is PPP? Purchasing power parity is a popular metric used by macroeconomic analysts that compares different countries' currencies through basket of goods approach. What is another thing that you have come across now? Basket of goods. Whenever I say basket, this is not a physical basket but imaginary basket. And whenever I say basket of goods, in a basket you got goods. In a basket you got some goods. And when I said basket itself is an imaginary, goods also imaginary. But we are imagining something where you have a basket and you have certain goods in that, only for the purpose of comparison. Just now I compared a shirt of America with a shirt in United States of in India. So then I came to know about the purchasing power parity. Am I clear? So now, once again I am opening the document. Kindly have a look at this. Kindly have a look at this. Purchasing power parity is a popular metric used by macroeconomic analysts that compares different countries' currencies through a basket of goods approach. PPP I'm sorry. PPP allows for economists to compare economic productivity and standards of living between the countries. So what is the standard of living? That can be compared. Now I'll show you one example. Now you can understand very easily. Look at this. To better understand how GDP, gross domestic product, is paired with the purchase power parity, it works. Suppose it costs $10 to buy a shirt in United States of America and it costs 8 euros to buy an identical shirt in Germany. To make an apple to apple comparison, what do you mean by apple to apple comparison? If you want to compare an apple, you have to take other apple. You cannot compare apple with mangoes. You cannot compare apple with bananas. You cannot compare apple with guas. Hope I am clear. Very, very, very important. That is the reason why. So whenever you are comparing two different currencies, you have to convert one currency into other currency with which you want to compare. Clear? Am I clear? Follow all these points very carefully. So to make an apples to apples comparison, we must first convert 8 euros into US dollars. If the exchange rate was such that the shirt in Germany will cost 15 rupees, $15, meaning the PPP would be therefore 15 by 10, that is 1.5, meaning for every 1 rupee that you are spending on a shirt in the United States of America, it takes $1.50 to obtain the same shirt in Germany buying with the euro. Am I clear? This is how you need to convert. This is how you need to convert. This is how you need to understand the subject. Am I clear? Would you like to read these ones? Please finish up reading. Okay, so that's about this particular topic, and of course so many things are there. I need to explain you GDP, real GDP, nominal GDP, and comparing some microeconomics, macro, so many things are there. We'll try to understand one after the other. Fine. So I'll see you in the next class, but don't forget, if you have any doubts, you have to send me mail. Fine. I'll see you in the next class.